Welcome. If you're watching this, you're looking at the Salesforce App Exchange demo. This is ClaimWorks Denial Management Solutions, part of your practice's revenue integrity. What we're going to cover here is we're going to cover the revenue integrity, the benefits of working with us, the denial impact nationwide, the revenue integrity journey, where we can make an impact at your practice, and we've been doing this since 1997, so we can make an impact. The revenue integrity impact expanded, what a coding review looks like, what clinical appeals looks like, claim review or auditing, and then our executive level reporting. And then finally, what an implementation timeline will look like at your site. So some of the benefits of working with us, first of all, we have fast implementation. We have a case study coming up, we'll show you. We basically tell clients that we can be ready to go within 7 to 17 days. And that generally depends on your remediation or EHR training or internal onboarding processes. But whatever they are, we've seen them all and we're ready. We have no IT integration, and that one's pretty huge. If we need to integrate with your systems, that can be quite costly and quite a delay. We're a web-based SaaS tool built on the Salesforce platform. We have military-grade security just because of that, and on top of that, we have installed Shield and event monitoring, putting us at a SOC 2 level of security. We have no operational disruption to you, and we're going to talk about how we can put this in front of you as a no-risk option. The problem that we're tackling is the denial nationwide that are going on and the projected increases of those denials. Denials take a long time. They're really expensive. And as an example of that, if you've got $2 million in annual charges per staff bed and you have a 500 bed facility, you got $1 billion in total charges. If you're losing 10% of that, which is a national average, to denials, you have a $100 million loss. And if only a third of that gets resubmitted, which is what happens nationally, you got a $66 million issue that we can help with dramatically. Many of these appeals are winnable. It's just the time constraints to get them done and get them done right. The revenue integrity journey and where we come in, there's a lot of steps in this journey. There's a lot of companies out there that'll handle it from A to Z. We're living right here in the denial resolution space. This is where we stay. This is what we want to manage for you. This is where we are going to deliver the results, and we stay out of these other areas for just that reason. This stuff here is complicated enough. So the first area, or the three areas that need your daily attention at your site in terms of denials, are coding reviews, validation reviews, RAC reviews, clinical appeals, medical necessity, authorization, again, RAC reviews, line item audits, claim reviews, high cost pass-throughs, CDM reviews, government, commercial. Any of these three branches or categories we're going to address. In the coding review, we generally find that clients know exactly where their pain points are. The pain points are, generally speaking, that there's a staffing issue or just an onslaught of denials that have put you behind the pace. So we'll use your encoder, we'll use our encoder, which is TrueCode, and we'll create reports for you. We'll push them up into ClaimWorks and push that aggregate data over, and we'll show you how that works as we go here. For clinical appeals, we're going to write a detailed clinical appeal letter. We're going to support the services you've provided to the payer's member by date of service. So we're going to outline every day and the services you provided, the lab results, the medical reasoning, the x-rays, the procedures done, the assessments, and we're going to use Milliman and Interqual, up-to-date Guidance Central, all of the resources out there to defend your hard-earned dollars. As an example of this, we had a client who was backlogged by about 350 appeals. We went in and got that account running after 9 days. Most of that delay was around the EHR training and just how fast people could be available to be on a call. And we assessed them for an appeal strategy. We assessed the number of days before we had to turn around a new appeal request. And about 6 months into that, this client is completely caught up. And they know the appeal story for all 350 of those cases. They have an appeal letter that are in their processes of adjudication, and we'll take them all the way to denied or upheld, however long it takes. What happens when we do that is that we get these kind of results. So we've looked at 20 cases in a month, $3.5 million worth of billed charges, almost $1 million in expected reimbursement. After we did our appeals, followed everything through to adjudication, we recovered $764,000, or 81% of the denied amount. And looking at their data, we see that 70%, according to the payer, was due to medical necessity. But when we write the letters and we capture the data in the way it should be captured for you, we find that the actual root cause is that the inpatient authorization requests were denied. And so those differences make a difference in your approach and how we're going to go after it. Similarly, with coding, with auditing and line item claim reviews, we're not just looking at a denial and then looking at the record and making decisions about that denial, that clinical appeal. Here we're looking at the claim itself, at the line items themselves, at the coding itself. And we're going to go in, upload that data, and then we're going to make adjustments to that data all the way through to adjudication till both sides agree to sign off on the document. By doing that, we took a client who had a $100 million problem. They had $97 million in their pipeline or at risk. And even though they had a low error rate, even in the beginning, we kept that error rate low and have slowly driven that rate down from 97 million at-risk dollars to 6 million at-risk dollars, and doing very well in our performance along the way, even improving their error rate. So this works. Executive level reporting, we have the capacity to do quite a lot here. So I'll touch on a couple of things that we think are important. You should have denial management committee meetings. If you don't, we're happy to form one, chair one, run one. It should include some ongoing educational feedback, nursing updates, and continuing education. When we're asked to do those, we will do a 45-hour-long segment associated with denials, associated with documentation, showing people in the trenches what they can do to make a difference in the denial category of your practice. Clinical documentation improvement, and we believe that a real important one is the denial management internal policy and procedure. So if you don't have one, we'll write you one, and we'll work in close conjunction with you and your contracting officer to really understand the matrix and what's allowed contractually and what isn't, and we'll change your stance in how you defend these claims. The pipeline report is one of the reports we'd like to start off with, just showing what's at risk. And if I ask your CFO, what's at risk? What's at risk in your denial management? Those are often siloed out in facilities. So the answer is, I don't know. With this ClaimWorks tool, the answer is a click away. Completed last month with payer or by payer with financials, a standard. The top 10 overbilled items, the top 10 underbilled items. When you look at top 10s and you define them out this way, both by payer and by quantity, you come up with every error you could possibly have. And so we'll show you how that works. We look at also the top 10 by payer and the appeals. All our reports drill down for root cause, and we include all this in a large report with narrative, report definitions, and commentary. As an example of the denials management policy and procedure, we want there to be this standard of practice and this stance, if you will, at your site that employs cost containment practices. It doesn't just kick requests for records out the door. Maybe we review those and ask, what is this need for? Should I expose this PHI? Or maybe I can hold it back, or maybe I can expose only a portion of it. How do we handle engagement letters and requests for records? How do we handle pre-audit certification? How do we handle audit fees, audit processes, special circumstances, right to refuse an audit? We're going to help you with all of that and walk you through how to manage this landscape and slow the payers down, frankly. For the appeals report and data, I just like to always take a minute and say, if you're keeping track of this on a spreadsheet, good for you, because this is a small piece of the appeal 5-level workflow, and it's difficult to keep up with. And this is why it's better served in a piece of software that can track milestones, that can track due dates, that can track error rates, that can compile all this data. It's tough work. So the people that are watching this, that are doing this work, congratulations, because it is very difficult stuff to do, and you should be applauded. One of the things that we see as a real important thing is to track all the hours committed to each appeal. Obviously, if you go into five levels of appeal, you have a lot of hours committed, and that means a lot of dollars committed. We want to let you know what those dollars are, because that's another argument, right? If you get into a legal battle and you want to support the fact that you're defending claims that you win month after month, and you shouldn't have to spend that time, you can do that by tracking your hours. Again, no IT integration, and you're going to know all your root causes. The appeal case report, like the audit case report, has those demographics. It has that smaller money line. Here we're mostly interested in the expected reimbursement, the denied amount, and what was recovered. But we also keep track of those things that we talked about earlier, the reasons for things, the notes, all of the pieces of the story. And this is where we're going to pull our data sets for your reporting, as well as this letter here. We're going to be able to pull the data out of this letter if there's something we want to look at. Maybe you want to look at how many cases had cardiomyopathy in the last 5 years. Then we'll look at the letters and pull that data. That's something most other companies are going to say, we can't do this, because they write their letter outside of the software in Docs or in Word, putting your PHI at risk and not being able to pull the data. Finally, the data all comes together into a master report sent over for you to look at. Here we looked at this example earlier, 3.5 million billed, almost $1 million in expected dollars. We recover 81% of it by employing the methodology I'm discussing now. And then behind that, we're going to give you drill down reports that say, by denial reason, look, we had 70%. And then our next report would be, root cause, and we'd show you why that denial reason wasn't exactly what we wanted it to be. Here again, in the audit cases, like the coding cases, we're going to separate out the line item issues for you, and we're going to show you what those line items are, whether they were an underbilled item, an overbilled item, a disputed item, a disallowed item. We have codes that show why we made the decision we made by item, and at the bottom of the report is a legend telling you all of the changes made, a table that calculates all the changes in dollars, and then sign offs for both auditors to finally adjudicate the claim. And then the ClaimWorks workflow is kind of like, we come in and assess. We're going to want to do a vulnerability assessment if that's needed. If you know exactly what it is you want, we're behind 100 cases, help us catch these cases up, and we'll just come in and we'll move on to the solve and implement. So we'll look at the problem, we'll let you know how we think we should attack it, and then we're going to deliver and we're going to report. It's really that simple. Along the way, if there's remediation or adjudication, remediation or a vulnerability assessment, something else that we need to do, training, we're happy to do that. And generally we can be started within less than 3 weeks. And so if you're on the demo side of things, you can't ask questions, but happy to have you send an email. That email's on the App Exchange page. And thank you so much for your time.